Tesla has just unveiled the Tesla Robotaxi, and it feels like we're starting to live in movies like I, Robot or Demolition Man, if you remember that.
He's going for the vehicle's battery core.
Concept car from GM that had autonomous driving in it. This looks similar to that, and the function is of course also very similar because this is a driverless car with Cybertruck like design details. So what we're going to do in this video is talk about this design. I feel like it's a mix. If you took the Model 3 and you took a lot of inspiration from the Cybertruck, mixed them two together, this is what you would have. And the proportions look almost comical because it doesn't need to have a lot of things that a regular car need to have. So you have a big greenhouse, small little hood in the front end, and it's also a 2-passenger car with a massive cargo area in the rear end. So it's a very, of course, unique car and unique design. But before we jump into Photoshop here and have a look at this from front, side, and rear, and the extremely minimalistic interior that we have here, let's have a look at what this car is all about. They also unveiled a couple of other things from Tesla, a robot, and then they have this mini bus or whatever it's called. We're gonna have a look quickly at that as well. So Tesla Robotaxi is a driverless car that will cost under 30K, which price-wise, you know, Tesla always, when they unveil new products, they have one price point. And then when it goes on sale, for some reason, the price just jumps by 25% or something like that. We'll see if this is going to cost under 30K. So it's a driverless car with Cybertruck-like design details. And Musk said that the Robotaxi, aka the Cybercab, will cost less than 30K, starting production sometime in 2026. We'll see if they keep up with that timeline as well and have inductive wireless charging, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure how fast that is going to charge this car, but I do think a lot of people are going to buy this as a fleet vehicles and just have them parked, I guess, on maybe on top of a pad or something like that. I'm not sure how exactly that is going to work. So Tesla also revealed more details about its humanoid robot Optimus, as well as the Robo-van, and not the Robo-bus, of course, a fully autonomous van. And this looks very futuristic, and it looks like you do not want to hit any speed bumps in the Robo-van because it's going to destroy the front end of this thing. So several years ago, when Musk shared his vision of the Robotaxi, he promised a fleet of self-driving taxis that would hit the streets sometimes in 2020. That timeline for volume production eventually changed to 2024, with Musk also saying in 2022 that the Robotaxi would not have a steering wheel or pedals and would rely on Tesla's full self-driving software. Now, that's the thing though, I don't feel confident enough yet to jump in a car like this and completely rely on the software, because all softwares at some point will have some sort of glitch. And what happens if you're going 75 miles per hour on the highway, and all of a sudden the car has some sort of glitch and just steers off the highway? I mean, it has to be bulletproof with a bunch of backup systems if the main system fails, if you're going to put this out on the street. So it definitely doesn't have a steering wheel, this concept that we see here. And honestly, they call it a concept, but to me it looks pretty much production ready. Instead, the driverless car features a dash similar to that in the Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y, except for the steering wheel and the pedals, of course. The Robotaxi is a 2-door hatchback with only 2 seats, although photos show it has a large cargo space. There are no rear windows either. You don't need it. You don't need a rear mirror if you're not driving the car yourself. You have a camera back there, of course. It also has a pair of exotic dihedral doors. So we have Lambo doors on a Tesla now. Not bad at all. And its wheels, so these wheels, I don't see almost any rubber on the wheel itself. It feels like if you hit a pothole in this thing, you're gonna have to switch out the wheels pretty frequently. I'm not sure. It also looks like it has a staggered setup, so maybe like 24s in the rear and 22s in the front. I'm not sure what the size is here. And surprisingly, Musk said that the Robotaxi doesn't have a traditional charging port. Instead, it's wireless charging. So he described a future where people could buy a fleet of Robotaxis and operate them in a way that's similar to how Uber operates today. So the reality is that Tesla still needs, as I said, this regulatory approval for its autonomous system to be able to operate on public roads. And Musk said He thinks that time will come next year, and the models will be able to operate in California and Texas to start with. They also unveiled this Optimus, the Tesla's humanoid robot, were also part of the Robotaxi reveal. The Optimus robots will be available for purchase, and it will cost around $28,000 to $30,000 in the long term. So when they get into mass production, of course, going to be a lot more expensive from the get-go before they reach that level of production. He painted a future where the robots do everything from completing household tasks, which I'm totally fine with. I mean, I don't like doing that, so having a robot doing that would be cool to have, but it would also be very sort of creepy to have a humanoid robot walking around in your house. And he also said teaching the robots to be just your friend. And that is a little bit weird to me, but I guess that is where we're heading with AI and all of this stuff, to just, communicate with robots in the future. So the RoboVan was another feature product revealed during the event, and despite having the word van in its name, the massive autonomous transporter looks more like a toaster on wheels. And I agree with that. It definitely looks very, very strange. It looks almost like a train car here, without any sort of automotive design features. This is definitely more like a product design, this design right here. And it can house up to, I do believe they said 20 people in there. It can be adapted for personal or commercial use. I'm not sure who would buy this for personal use. It is going to look just like this, said Elon Musk at this event. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at let's focus on the Robotaxi here for this video. So the proportions here looks like a car that came out of the movie Cars, because look at the proportions of the greenhouse in relation to everything else that goes on in the car. The front end, as I said, looks like a mix between the Model 3 and the new Model 3 and the Cybertruck. And I'm not sure what's going on with the Roadster. Are we ever going to get the Roadster in production or not? It's been, planned for, I don't know, almost 10 years now, probably since 2015 or something like that. And they still haven't given an update on the Roadster. But the line flow here, this is also a little bit more of a product design feel to me, extremely bland, and it kind of makes me depressed just to look at this thing, because it really doesn't have any sort of personality to the design. There are a couple of lines here that have some cool connection to it. For example, these hood lines here, adding a little bit of sporty fender here up top on the hood. And you can see how if we draw this line out in the front end, it does have a connection to what's going on down here in the lower section, because we have a subtle little sharp line there in the front end. You also have the typical opening down low for the battery pack, and that is the only opening or grill that you have in the front end. Super slim headlights here, and razor sharp as well. So this area is supposed to house both the high beams and the low beams, and then you have an LED bar in the middle, similar to what we have on the Cybertruck. Now, looking at the greenhouse from this specific angle, you can see the relationship between the height of the greenhouse here. If we draw a line from the bottom of the battery pack, which probably sits down here in the black area, all the way up to the top, you can see that the greenhouse sits very high up, and you have these Lambo doors now opening up here, which is, I'm not sure if that is actually going to make it into production. It would be cool to see, I guess, but it's just a gimmick feature. So looking at the side view here, this is a two-door hatchback. And I do believe, in my opinion, probably the side view would be my favorite view for this, because we have a very nice shoulder line here that it wraps around the entire car. And that is, as you know, one line that wraps around the car is what I want to see in pretty much every single car design. To have a connection from the front end here, if we draw a line from the headlights going through the top of the front axle into the side here, and then dipping back, coming back into the light bar that we have in the rear end. If we zoom in on this area, this definitely looks a lot like the Cybertruck. Super sharp, and the bumpers are also very sharp here. Horizontal and vertical lines all over this car. And this is the massive hatchback that we have in the back. So this entire piece from this cut line here all the way down to the light bar. This opens up completely, revealing a huge storage space in the back of this car with only 2 seats. The overall proportions here of the Robotaxi kind of reminds me a bit of the, what was it called? The old, I think that was ahead of its time, that car. I think it's called the Volkswagen XL1. I'm gonna put in a picture of it here. The chiselness and the sharpness with a couple of sharp lines here and the soft surfaces, it definitely has the same type of vibe like that old Volkswagen design from, I do believe that came out, I'm not sure when it came out, it probably came out in the maybe 2015 or something like that, or maybe earlier than that, I'm not sure. But look at the wheel size here. This is what I'm talking about. I can't really see any rubber, but I do believe that the rubber actually extends into this line here, and this is just a cover for the tire itself. So I don't think that this is the profile of the tire, because it's way too thin. And as I said, if you have just a tire this thin, it's definitely gonna create a lot of punctures when you go over speed bumps. But we do have different size for the wheels here. This looks way bigger than the one that we have in the front end. And I'm not opposed to having wheels like this for I mean, if you want to make it look futuristic, you want to have a very simplistic design, minimalistic design like we have here, and just cover up the wheels, because it's all about efficiency and range, airflow, aerodynamics when it comes to this car. And I do think just covering up the wheels is going to help with the range a lot. Now, looking at the rear end, also give me a lot of XL1 vibes with the taillights here, and also of course Cybertruck vibes with the LED bar. I think this design, it's like they took the Cybertruck and refined it a little bit and added a sprinkle of automotive feel to this design. It's not as chiseled and sharp like the Cybertruck. We do have a nice curvature up here. I do like the roofline curvature going down to the A-pillar here. And if we go down from the A-pillar all the way down, it doesn't really extend to the center of the front axle, which it would have done if this was a regular internal combustion engine. But since we don't have an engine in the front end here, we can extend the A-pillar forward, and that of course gives the passengers more room in the interior. Now, last but not least, looking at the interior here, and I want to show you this as well before we jump into the interior, just how it opens up. You can see the big cargo space back here. In the back, absolutely huge. I do like the light bar up here. That means that we need to have some sort of brake lights integrated down here. That is pretty much typical, similar to what we have on the Cybertruck, because you can't have the only brake lights being part of the moving parts of the car. That's just a regulation that we have in place today. So looking at the interior here, really nothing to do, or there's nothing to look at in the interior except for a massive TV right in front of you here. And this is also a very, I don't like these type of designs, because I feel like we're losing. I mean, how fun is it to design an interior like this as an interior designer? You just put a dash that is completely straight. You have a horizontal line here and similar styling on the right side and the left side. You have a couple of seats and a little curvature here for the door handle. And that's all you do as a designer. And then you step back and just let the engineers put a big screen or mount a screen in the center. So I want to see a lot more. We can still have minimalistic design, but still have personality. I think Volvo is a brand that does that really, really well. They have a minimalistic interior, but they use a lot of different textures, different materials, high quality stuff, stitching and stuff like that to make it feel special. This interior just it looks dead to me. That's what I think about the interior of the Tesla Robotaxi. But I guess if you're just going to have it as a taxi and, you know, not as a personal vehicle, I guess having a bunch of these out on the road would maybe make sense. I kind of wish the styling looked a little different, a little bit more exciting than this, but it's totally fine. And I think Tesla is starting to build their own design DNA. The Cybertruck just took that completely off track. I think this Model 3 and the Model Y, and also the Roadster, if we're ever going to see that in production, they have a pretty clear design identity. And this looks like the mix between the two extremes, the Cybertruck and pretty much the rest of the lineup of Tesla. So maybe this is the direction Tesla is going to move in going forward. Now, looking quickly, we just want to mention the Robo-Van that they showed on this event as well. And I think that also has a completely different styling to what we've seen from Tesla before. That doesn't look like a Semi, it doesn't look like a Model 3 or Y or X or S, and it doesn't look like the Robotaxi. So I think the design is, at the moment, all over the place, and I think Tesla needs to focus in and dial in if they want to create a strong brand identity. But at the same time, I'm not sure Tesla really cares about, you know, having a proper design DNA in their products. I'm not really sure, but I'm looking, it's gonna be cool to see this on the streets, and I'm looking forward to seeing this in real life because I wanna have a better understanding of these proportions and what this actually looks like out on the roads.